When my parents asked me to watch Maya for a few hours, I said no. That no turned out to be the most caring thing I ever did. I grew up on the edge of Dayton, Ohio, in a modest house that revolved around my younger sister, Maya. She was born with spina bifida and severe cognitive delays. The house was quiet, except for the hum of her ventilator and mom's whispered instructions. By the time I was 16, college and road trips had been replaced by feeding tubes, catheter changes, and endless therapist notes. My only escape was a cracked notebook where I doodled logos and dreamed of being a graphic designer. When I finally got my driver's license, I promised myself I'd earn enough to move out and breathe. At 18, I landed a night shift at a call center and enrolled in a community college graphic design program. 60-hour weeks became normal, but each paycheck brought a little more independence. 2 years later, a freelance gig turned into a full-time remote design job. I rented a small studio near a park, and sunlight finally filtered into my life after 12 years of dim lighting. My parents visited twice that first year. The second visit ended with a pleading request. "Can you watch Maya while we go to a doctor's appointment? It'll only be a few hours." Guilt surged, but I said no. The next morning I called Adult Protective Services, not to take Maya away, but to bring in a neutral party to mediate the routine manipulation. APS assigned a social worker, Lena. She visited, listened, and drafted a care plan that kept Maya at home with professional aides, while giving my parents a modest stipend for her expenses. It wasn't perfect, but it was the first time my voice mattered. For 6 months, life settled into a rhythm. I logged into design projects, jogged in the park, and returned to a quiet studio where I could finally hear my own thoughts. My parents called occasionally, asking if I would move back, if it made Maya's life easier. I laughed, told them I was happy where I was, and changed the subject. 2 months ago, they surprised me with a dinner invitation. Their living room was strewn with brochures about caregiver tax credits, home modification grants, and a schematic of my studio with wider doorways and a roll-in shower. My dad, eyes bright, said, "Look how perfect this place would be for Maya. We've already talked to her case manager about transferring her care to you. It's all set up." My heart pounded. I could see the hope in Mom's eyes, the imagined family reunion where I finally did my part. I took a deep breath, looked at Maya's wheelchair parked in the corner and said, "I love Maya more than anything, but I'm not her full-time caregiver. I'm her sister, not a substitute parent. I can help coordinate her services, but I can't live with her." Dad's smile faltered. Mom's eyes welled up, but she didn't argue. Later that night, Lena called. She reminded them that state policy prohibits forcing an adult child into a custodial role without consent. She offered quarterly meetings to discuss Maya's progress and any adjustments needed. The following week, my parents visited again, this time asking about my upcoming project deadline, not about Maya's schedule. Mom handed me a small hand-knit scarf, a rare gesture of affection not tied to a request. We talked honestly about how exhausted they felt, about a therapist's suggestion to add a weekend respite program, and about how I could volunteer a few hours a month to stay connected without sacrificing my own life. That conversation marked the end of a decade-long tug-of-war. I kept my studio. Maya stayed in her familiar home with professional aides. My parents received financial support to hire a qualified caregiver for the days they couldn't be there. We established clear boundaries. I coordinate appointments and offer sibling support. Day-to-day care belongs to trained staff. Looking back, the biggest lesson is learning to define my own role. Caring for someone you love doesn't mean losing yourself. By setting firm limits, I protected Maya's stability, gave my parents peace of mind, and most importantly, kept my own life on my terms. So, if you're being pressured into a caregiving role you never signed up for, remember, advocacy, not surrender, is the answer. Saying no isn't abandonment. It's an act of self-respect that lets you give more, not less.